CSR and ESG, there's a huge amount of terminology being used at the moment, and for many people, they still don't know. If you say CSR, a lot of business people don't know what that is, let alone ESG. But there are some very specific differences. What's, in your view, the differences? For
me, I think when we started to look at CSR, the conversation was about CSR. It wasn't about ESG at all. And for us, we very much focused on our corporate social responsibility, those three aspects. But within that, we had our environmental aspects, our people, our philanthropy, etc. Now, I think we're starting to look at ESG as part of that. And I see CSR as what we do, but the ESG element is how we measure what we do. It's not just about doing it, it's how...
It's about the reporting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's I quite often think of it as it's the tip of the iceberg. It's what investors will want to see. It's what the city wants to see from business. It's, as you say, it's the measurability. Yeah. This is what we do.
Yeah. When we started out and we did our first CSR accreditation, and that's now 5 years ago. Yeah. It was almost amazing to us, as much as anybody else, to draw together all of the things that we did and say, oh, actually, here it is in one package. That's great. And then we start to think about what can we do next. Whereas now, as we start to look at the environmental impact, and I think we only have to look at the news for a broad acceptance to understand that there's environmental impact, and we start to work towards carbon neutral, then you start to think about, okay, how are we measuring that? And that, to me, how are we measuring that? What do we need to measure? What else should we be measuring and demonstrating? It's not just about this is what we're doing. It's actually, is that having a measurable impact? Yeah. And if it's not, then what should we be doing instead? And so I think the two things, start to merge in that perspective.
Yeah, and I totally agree. For me, CSR, the tip of it, using the iceberg analogy, CSR is the framework that a business should have in place that covers all of the four pillars. So the environment, the community, the philanthropy, but also one element that a lot of people forget is the workplace and the support and staff that you give to your staff. Yeah. And if that framework's in place, to me, it would then trigger a business doing that annual reporting, producing social impact reports. And if you're doing that on an annual basis anyway, the ESG element, which is the reporting that everybody wants to see, is automatically achieved. Yeah. I think what we'll see more and more of now is legislation coming into place. Yeah. Europe's there. Yeah. Come January with CSRD. And a lot of people are saying, oh, but we're not that big. Yeah. But if you're in the supply chain, under Scope 3 rules, you're going to have to provide that information at some point. Yeah.
And I think it's really important because when I look at what we do here, having a framework that exists and measures that you should be looking at enables us not to reinvent the wheel, in a sense, and sort of sit in our imagination thinking, oh, it would be great to do this. But actually there's no measurable impact or demonstrable impact on that for doing that. So I think, having ESG as a framework is really good for supporting CSR initiatives. Yeah. So is how I tend to look at it.
So, Gina, thank you very much.
You're very